Hello, everyone, and welcome, and a special welcome to all of our new members of our community here. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying the past content. For this month, the month of October, not only are we getting a tangle a day, so I hope you're having fun with that for Inktober. To this month's project, we're going to work with colored pencils. And we're just going to do a simple floral image. I could talk for hours about colored pencils. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a technique working with our colored pencils. We're not going to use any solvents. We're going to use the white pencil to blend, and we're going to use a colorless blender. That's also in the range as well. And that is what I use 90% of the time when I use my colored pencils. I am so sorry, and forgive me. There's a cold coming in. Yes. And I'm trying to fight it. Colored pencils are my favorite coloring medium. We have so many to choose from. We have our dye inks, we have our sprays, we have our alcohol markers, watercolors, acrylic paints, and the list can just go on. But colored pencils are very close and dear to my heart. They were one of the first items that I touched when I was a young little squat many decades ago, when I started in my crafty, arty journal and journey that I take. So they are very dear to me. My second are watercolors. I'm finding a wonderful love when it comes to watercolors as well. But today we are going to focus on colored pencils. I'm going to walk through some papers that I use, and we're going to go a little bit through papers, what you want to look for, and there is a paper that you do not want to use. I don't recommend it. Let me say it that way. You're not going to get the same results that you will with other papers that I do talk about. We're going to work with one colored pencil brand, and I'm going to be using my Prismacolors. Now, you can use any color pencil that you may already have in your stash or that you're interested in. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about pencils themselves. Nothing too deep dive into that. I want to focus on the technique more so than anything else. I'm also going to go through the supplies that I'm going to use, such as my ink pad, and the stamp that we'll use, and all of that. And then we are going to get in, and I'm going to show you how to color the entire image that I've chosen from start to finish. So definitely lots of gab, but let me gather my supplies, and when I come back, we're just going to talk through them. Okay, welcome back. Now, maybe you're still on the fence saying, okay, I still don't know what I need to choose. Okay, here is the stamp that I'm going to use. It's by Altnu. It's from one of their way back past Craft Your Life project kit. It's actually from 2021, so I dug into my stash. This is the stamp that we're going to use. It's got two nice big florals, and it's got some greenery, and it's got a bud. All right, so that is what we're going to use, just that one. I'm not going to use any dies because we're going to make a single layer card, and that's what I usually do when it comes to colored pencils. Very rarely will I die cut the image out. I want to go right onto that paper, and I put it onto a mat, and then the card is done. All right, so that's what I'm going to use. When I do use my colored pencils, I do lean towards florals. That is when they come out for me. That's how I like to color my florals if I'm not using my watercolors. We will get into other techniques when it comes to our colored pencils in future projects where we may use a watercolor as a base, and then we can add our colored pencils on top of it. So there's going to be something for you. I don't want you to be intimidated. I don't want you to think that you can't do this, because you can. The ink pad that I'm going to use, now this is something that's very odd. Okay, this is the Simon Says Intense Black. What I love about this one is it's drying out. Okay, I know that's strange. Whenever I do colored pencils, all right, and these have beautiful thin lines, I'll stamp in a black if I'm not doing a no line coloring. All right, that's a special ink that I would use, and we'll be showing that in a future project down the road. But when I do stamp in black, I don't want these deep black, bold lines. So this one is perfect for me because since it's fading, I could just lightly stamp it a couple times. Now, if you have the VersaFine ink or the Memento ink or any other type of ink like that, or the archival, that's fine too. You just want to stamp lightly, and I will go over that when we stamp, okay? But I am going to use this, and it is my go-to stamp pad right now until it finally says, nope, you're not going to get anything else from me until this completely dries out. I know, it's strange, but we develop those habits and those little quirks as we create. And that's what makes our art wonderful. Let's talk about paper. I will also be using a stamp positioning tool. Okay, so just so you know that, I think we all know what a stamp positioner looks like, and we'll see that as we get further in the video. So I do have my favorite paper that I use when it comes to that, but I want you to know that you can use a cold press watercolor paper. You can use a hot press watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be 100% cotton. You just want it to either be hot press or cold press. You can go into the rough, but stick with these two. All right. And you can also use, I also like the Canson XL Bristol Vellum, not the Bristol Smooth. The paper that you want to look for is you want it to have what we call tooth. You don't want it to be a perfectly smooth piece of cardstock when you use your colored pencils. You want that paper to have a tooth so that it will take the pigment from the pencil. And that's what creates that pigment to come on. The tooth is rubbing against this and drawing that pigment out. We don't want to start out with heavy pressure. We want to have a light hand. The beauty of colored pencils is we can layer them, and that's how we get our blends, and that's how we get our looks when it comes to working with these. The final step, whether you use a white colored pencil or the colorless blender, which is just a pencil that has no pigment in it. It's also by, I have here my Prismacolors. That's when we're going to fill in the tooth. That's when we're really going to work those colors back and forth. But you want to have a cardstock that you're working on that has a tooth. So when you hear me saying that, that's what I'm referring to. It has just a slight roughness to it. Now, hot press, even though when you think of cold press and hot press, so think of hot press, we have to iron our shirts to get the wrinkles out. Iron is hot. Hot press. Cold press, we're keeping the wrinkles in the shirt because it's cotton, and that's what it's supposed to be. Okay? But what's great with cold press, there's a rougher side compared to the other side. So you can look to say, okay, I want to go on this side. You can use Canson XL watercolor as well. It's a wonderful paper. These are great, very economical. Here you get 30 sheets. You figure they're 9 by 12. If we quarter this, we have 120 panels. Here, this is a 5 by 7. Now you can either cut that in half and have a 5 by 3.5. This has 25. That will give you 50 panels. Or you can keep this to the 5 by 7 and you'll have 25. All right, so I always, cut down on my papers. My absolute favorite and go-to paper for colored pencils is the Strathmore Mix Media. There is a Strathmore colored pencil paper out there. It's very thin though. Okay, this resembles that, but it is 184 pounds. So it's nice and thick, like watercolor paper. I mean, that's nice and thick. It's beautiful, okay? It's got just that right amount of tooth to it. It's not, it feels smooth, but there is a tooth there. This comes in white and black, but I also love the toned colors. It comes in toned gray, toned blue, and toned tan. And that is what I 99.9% of the time, this is what I use, one of the toned shades whenever I use my colored pencils. Today, I'm going to be using the toned gray. Strathmore does have the toned gray and tan in color pencil. It's very economical. It's just thinner. It's very thin, but you can certainly mat it and make it thicker onto your cards. So again, whatever works for you. What I do not suggest using when it comes to your colored pencils is regular white cardstock. You can absolutely practice on it. And if that's what you have right now, go for it. You just may not get the same results that I'm going to show here. Now, if you have the Recollections 110 pound, that's a lot better. And I have used it because it's not super smooth. So it does have that little bit of tooth, and that will give you a good result. The Nina Solar White, I do not believe and I do not recommend that one. It's too smooth. That is for alcohol markers. It's very good for alcohol markers. But I want you to have a happy result. I want you to be happy with what you're trying. So again, only my recommendations, only my thoughts. I want you to do what works best for you and use what you have. Okay? Let's talk about the pencil. So I'm going to be using my Prismacolors. They are my go-to when it comes to colored pencils. I have been using these for an extremely long time, and they are still my favorite. Prismacolors are the main choice and availability when it comes to colored pencils because they've been around that long. You can get them in different sets. You do not need the full 150 color set. You can get a good price at the 24 or even the 36. You can also get the 12. You're going to do more blending to get different colors. So if you go into the 24 or 36, you'll have a few more options that may make you a little more happy. All right. but you do not have to get the full 150 color set. If you are looking at these, my suggestion is look at Dick Blick. They have wonderful sales, and they have good prices for you. The other popular pencil is the Faber-Castell Polychromos. The Polychromos are wonderful. They're a little bit thicker in the barrel. All right, just a tad, but you can feel the difference. The difference between these two is Prismacolors are wax-based. The Polychromos are oil-based. The Polychromos are softer and creamier. The Polychromos have a harder core. You can still do the same thing with either of these, with what I'm going to show you. So if you've already got the Polychromos, great, let's go with it. If you have the Prismacolors, great, we're all set. If you have other sets, they are fine as well. You'll also find at the end of this tutorial, I will give you a color card of the colors that I used, so that you would be able to say, okay, I can use this color, I can use this color, that's close. Or I encourage you, use your own colors. That's the beauty of it. If you want to make a gray flower, you can make a gray flower. If you want to make a purple flower, you can make your flower purple. We can choose any color that we want, and it doesn't matter what the flower is. Okay? To get inspired for your colors, I suggest going on to Google, typing in the flower name, and also put image to that search, and you'll get some beautiful images of that flower that you want to work on. All right? So again, I'll be using my Prismacolors as we will get started, and when I come back, we're going to stamp our image and we are going to get started, and I will zoom you in so that you can see what I'm doing. So hopefully that helps. Get your supplies ready, or just sit back and watch and try this when you're ready. I'll see you then. We're now going to stamp our image. Now I've already cut my panel down, and again, I'm using the Strathmore Mixed Media in toned gray, and I've cut it to be 4 inches by 5 1/4, because then I'll be able to have a little bit of matte going around it. My card base is going to be an A2 size card base, and I'm going to use the card base, since it's in black, as my frame for our image. So I'm going to take my stamped image, carefully pull it off, and we're going to get this set onto the panel. So I'm just going to move this up just a little bit, use those lines to guide me, and I'm okay if, whoops, oh, just broke that magnet now, didn't I? Please be careful with these magnets. These magnets are very strong, and you can see just how that broke. Okay, it's all good. So I'm going to get this placed, and I know I want this to sit right here. I am totally okay with it going off the edge. To me, that adds interest to our piece. So I think I'm going to set that right there. And while this is here, I'm going to look at my sentiments. And I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to stamp that at the same time. I even keep my sentiments soft as well. So I'm going to set that there. I'm going to make sure that it's somewhat straight. And we'll pick these two up. And I'm hoping that was there. And we'll put my magnet there. And we're going to go down one more. I think I spend more time positioning my stamps than I do anything else. Okay. So now that I have my stamp in the position and where I want it, I'm just going to rub over this with my hand just to prime it up just a little bit. And I'm going to pull in my stamp pad. And I'm just going to lightly ink this up. And I think this is going to be one of the few times that I use this. It just gives a beautiful, soft gray. And I'm just going to lightly push this down. I'm not going to do my normal CPR stamping. And I'm going to gently pick this up. And you can see, yes, I need to, you know, re-stamp, and that's okay. We'll just make sure that we add ink there. And now I'll focus in that section there. And I am going to move that magnet. I think the magnet is in my way. All right. And I think my sentiment is good. So I'm going to pull the stamp off. And now I'm going to focus on my image. I'm going to carefully just push that down. And there we go. I have a beautiful, beautiful image there. I have a little smudge. We let it go. Let it go. But it's soft. If we have a Nocturne, the Claire Nocturne Black or the VersaFine, we just lightly put that ink on our stamp and gently tap that down. All right, going to grab this. Going to get that out of my way. And when we come back, we're going to color. See you soon. Okay. Now, the one thing I forgot to show you are sharpeners. I like to have a long, let me grab another one for you. I like to have a long, sharp point. And to get that, I don't use automatic sharpeners. You can get an automatic sharpener or a crank sharpener. I like hand sharpeners. And this one is my absolute favorite. It's by Kum, K-U-M. And this is number, if I can read it, I don't know if I can read that. So let me grab 405L. That's the number on it. You can find these on Amazon. Very reasonable. You will have to replace this. If you use your colored pencils a lot, you will replace these after time, and you'll know that because the colored pencil, when you put it in to sharpen, so let me add a little bit more of a point, it'll skip in this sharpener. It will like get caught on the wood. That's a sign that the blade is dull. So you should be able, and I use this hand to turn and this hand stays still. And I just slowly turn, and it's a smooth, it should be smooth, a smooth flow, and you should get these coils. When it starts skipping, that's when you know you need to replace that. Okay? So that is my absolute favorite sharpener because of the length of the point that I get. Prismacolor does have their own sharpener as well, and that's just as good. Okay? The colors that I'm going to be using is a peach, a pink, those are the actual names. I'm going to be using mahogany red, and I'm going to also have black raspberry. That's going to be for my flowers. For my greens, you can tell these are my favorite colors. I'm using lime peel, olive green, dark green, and indigo blue. Yes, a blue. All right. And we're working with 4s. I've also pulled in my black. That's scary black. I've also pulled in my white. And I've pulled in my colorless blender. And I have it in a pencil extender because it's really short. She's really, really short. But you can see it looks like it has pigment, but it's completely clear. Absolutely clear. There's no pigment. It's just wax. Okay? And we'll be using that. So those are my colors that I'll be using. And as I said, there will be a color card that you can download, a close-up of the image that we're coloring, and then the list of the colors will be on the left-hand side. All right, so let's get you zoomed in. And let's get started coloring. Now, I'm going to start with my flowers first. Okay, now I am going to have some other colors in the center. I'm not quite sure what I want those colors to be yet. So I'm leaving them alone right now. But we're going to do the florals and the bud first, and then we'll do the leaves, and then I'll come back and we'll figure out what we're going to do with that, with those centers there. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with a yellow and a brown, or I'm just not sure yet. Have not figured that out. All right. So the way that I work with colored pencils, I'm going to get these off to the side, is I start with my light base first. It's almost like alcohol markers if you've used those. And I work one petal at a time. So I'm going to pick this one, and I just, with a light pressure. So if you find that you are just gripping this and you're really putting the pigment down, you're filling the tooth. Pull your hand back on the barrel of the pencil, and that will help you to not have a lot of pressure. I work in small circles at this stage, but I cover the whole petal. It's like I'm getting this primed, and I just get that color down. Now, you can put this color down on all of your petals if you want, but I do like to work with one petal at a time. I then put this one down, and then I'll come in with my next lightest color. And now I'm going to focus on the edges. And what I mean by that is in small circles. Again, you can see how far back my hand is. In small circular motions, I'm putting that pigment down, and I'm coming up the petal. And again, just keeping that light pressure going along the edge and just pulling that up. It's almost like I want to come up almost midway or 3/4 of the way. And you can see I turn it every once in a while to keep that point. All right. Then I'm going to put this one down. I'm going to go to my next one, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start at the base, light pressure, definitely along those edges, and I'm just coming out, but a little bit less. Not as far as I did with the pink, but I'm definitely going to go around those edges. So this one's about halfway. You can see we're getting that gradient. I'm going to pick my pink back up, and I'm going to go over lightly. I'm still lightly, and you can see that I had that line there, and it just went away now. So I'm pulling my pink up just a little bit more, going back down just a little bit. And now I'm going to come in with my darkest, and I'm going to stay close to the edge, and I'm going to go where the petals overlap. And I'll come out just a little bit. I'm going to turn my piece if I have to. Go along that edge. Not all the way up. And this has some lines for us for the petal, and I'm going to follow those just using small circles. And there's some here. All right, I'm going to come back in with my second to darkest, and I'm going to go over those. Pulling this out. I'll come back in with my pink, and you can see I'm going back down to the bottom whenever I come in with my next color. I'm adding a little bit more pressure now because I want those colors to blend. I'm bringing up that pink a little bit more. Remember, we can always add, but we can't remove. All right. And then I'll come back in with my peach, and I'm going to stay towards the middle. So I am bringing that down just a little bit. And I'm just going to add more pigment, but just bring that right over everything. You can see I'm just swirling over all of these colors because what that's doing is it's blending. It's blending that petal. Now see that sheen? I'm not going to be able to add much more pigment. That's called blooming. The pencils have bloomed, and that's the wax that's in there. But once that gets covered, that's when you know you cannot add any more pigment. But I know I can because now I'm going to come in with my white. Get those pencils up there. And I'm going to go right around this edge. And I'm going to do that with lines. Now I go back and forth. I'm not using circles. And you can see that white just blended right in there, and it's given me my highlight. I like to use the white as my blender. I can come in with my colorless blender and just swirl over these veins to make sure they are nice and blended as well. But you can use the pencils, and that's what I did. I used the pencils to blend all of that out. You really don't need this. You just need this and your other colors. And that's what we're going to focus on. So now let's move to our next petal. I'm going to move to this one, and we're going to do the same thing. Again, light pressure. I'm just going to get my color down. Not my white. I want the lightest color of the color group that I chose. And this is the same technique that I use for my leaves as well. I'm going to pull in the pink. And you saw the last petal, I brought my pink up even higher after I started adding my other shades. And that's fine, but I'm still going to stop in the same spot. I'm going to come in with the next darkest, really focusing around where these leaves and petals are overlapping. And I'm bringing that out. And again, I only focus on one petal, and you can see that line. See that line there? It's almost a harsh line. I'm going to go back over that with my pink, and it's going to disappear. It's just going to blend out. And that's where I add just a little bit more pink coming up along the top. And then I'm going to come in with my darkest. And that's where I really focus in along that edge where the petals overlap. And I'm going to do that right there as well. I want that really dark where they overlap. And I just pull this up a little bit. I'm going to turn. We don't do yoga with our hands when we're coloring, no matter what we're doing. Turn your piece. And then I'm just going to put a few up here. Not so dark, using a light hand with those that are up above. Then I'll come back down with my mid-tone, blend that out. I'm using a little bit more pressure to blend it, but not too much. I don't want to fill up that tooth. I'll come back in with my pink down in here to blend that out. I'm going to come in with this dark one ever so lightly, just up here at the top, just very lightly. And now I'm going to come in with my peach. So I still have that color coming through. Again, still working in those circular motions. And then we're going to come back in with the magic. And I'm going to go up and down. These lines are just going to come down. No more circles. I'm going back and forth, up and down, just creating those highlights. And with that little bit that I put there, that just blended that out just a little bit. Okay. And let's continue on to the next one. Each one is going to look different. They're going to be blended in different areas. And to me, that's what gives the floral or your image its richness. But I do like to go over the lines with a sharp point on these edges. That does not have to be blended out. That just helps to define the petal. And then I do it along the bottom as well. Okay, and even that just made that pop just a little bit more. All right, we are almost done this flower, believe it or not. So again, back to our circles, just putting down a light layer. Until we have it filled in. Come in with our next one. And you can see I kind of keep that in like a U shape. You know, I'm coming up on the sides, but I'm staying down in the bottom there when it comes to that color. And again, we're just going back and forth, adding that color, small circles. Come back in with my pink real quick, just to smooth out that line just a little bit. Bring my pink up a little bit more. Now we'll come in with that dark color. Really go along that edge and smooth it out. Go along these veins in the petal just to accent them. And then these little ones, I just lightly go over. I'm barely touching the paper. Come in with our, back with our mid to blend that out. Come back in with our peach, or our pink, sorry. I'm throwing my pencils. Come back in with our peach. Just to get that all blended, get that peach color down into that petal. Now we're going to come back in with that white. And that's where we forget the circles. And we just let that come down into our petal. And it just gives, and you can see I'm going almost halfway down it to really just have that peach undertone quietly coming through. And we rinse and we repeat. And when you first put your lightest color down, you don't have to put a lot. You can go very light with it. Just want to get that color, because as you're putting your other colors down, like when I'm putting this peach, this pink down, I'm mixing in with that peach. I'm not just going on top of it. I'm actually mixing these two colors together to create that different shade. Colored pencils are the same when it comes to color theory, that if you just have a red and a blue and a yellow, you will be able to create all the colors that you want. And it is true. Colored pencils, though, do take longer. This is not, and I don't want it to be for you, a quick process. You can see, you know, where we're at in the video and how long, you know, this is taking to get our color down in there for our piece. This is relaxing for me. It's very calming. Again, we're going to get those veins. Gonna do our swirls. And I love the results of what you get when you use your colored pencils. But it does take longer. I've always said that if it takes you an hour to color a image with alcohol markers, colored pencils will be twice that, at least. And again, here comes that white. This white, best white colored pencil ever. But you get these beautiful streaks when you go back and forth. When you're moving in the circular motion, that's where you're blending. But you can just see those streaks going right into that petal. All right, let's finish up this flower. But like I was saying, you could have color theories the same with colored pencils. So if you have just those 3 pencils and a white, you can create all of the colors that you need for it. It's just going to take you a while to get those to blend. And lots of patience, lots of light pressure, so that you can continuously add your layers to your piece. Now, you can certainly just get those 3 colors and have some fun. Get the feel of the pencil. Get the feel of how this is working for you. This motion of small circles and going over these colors. But I don't want you to give up. To say, okay, no, this is just taking way too much time. I want you to enjoy the process and take your time with it. Colored pencils are very, very approachable. Get that peach going on up there again. And we're going to come in with this beautiful white. Just get those streaks going back and forth, going down that petal. And there we go. Excuse me. We have our first floral done. All right, let's work on the bud first. I'm going to use the same colors. We're just going to change it up just a little bit. I'm still going to put my peach down, and for this one, I'm going to put the peach down on all the petals. So again, I do like to work one petal at a time when it looks like this, but for buds, I will do all of them at once, because we can clearly see the line from it. And I'm still going to come in with the pink. We're just going to have more of the pink, because this is a bud, and I really want that white to pop off. So we're just making this a little darker because it is a bud. So you can use the same colors that you're using, and just by moving the colors up higher or maybe omitting one, you'll get a different color family than what you have for the main flower. You know, that one that's up close. So don't think that every floral or every flower on your piece has to look the same. So instead of coming back with the pink, I'm coming back with my peach this time and going down just a little bit further, adding a little bit of pressure to blend that out. And now I'll come in with my dark, and I'm going to first outline my petals. So this dark is really going to come up the bud. And I'm using it to outline each of them. And you can see just how far up I'm coming on that, a lot further than what I did for our first flower. You can see it just looks a little darker, has a little bit more peach into it. So I'm going to first come down in the center, going back and forth with the peach, blend out that line. Now I'm going to bring in my white, on each of these. And again, I'm going to stay up close to the top. And I'm just going to come in with this dark color again, just to highlight each of these petals, just to pull them out. So just by going back and forth, and that's where you really want to put your pressure down so that you can accent this top petal. There you go. That is our bud. And now we're going to move to this one. So you can see these two here, you know, took us, you know, it's right around 25 minutes when it comes to coloring these in. But we're getting far, absolutely. And we can do the same thing here as well. But I do, again, I really like to just focus on one petal at a time because I don't lose my lines. I don't want to lose the line of each of the petals. Now, this is not going to have a white top to it because that's tucked up underneath. So we're mixing up the pink and the peach. Now we're going to come in, and after this petal, I need to sharpen my pencils. I like to have that point. And we're just going to add our mid-tone. And we're going to take that up in through there. And then we're going to come in with our darkest. Again, outlining the petals. And then just pulling that out. And highlighting or outlining the veins in the petal. And then I'm going to come back in with the peach down here. Or the pink. I really want to call that peach. This is our peach. And then I'm going to come in with our peach like we did the white. you know, going back and forth to really get those in. But you can see it added a little bit of a highlight. So let me pull my sharpener in, and I'm now going to sharpen each of my pencils. And you can see it's just a smooth flow to get that point back. And you can see this hand here is coming towards me and this one is turning, but this is doing most of my turning since I'm right-handed. But I take it slow. I don't go quick. You also want to be careful not to drop your pencils. You don't have to be, you know, completely ginger with them. You know, it's okay, but you don't want to, you know, just boom, drop them down onto the table. The core, the pigment core inside can break. And you would see that as you sharpen down, the tip it's not going to form. It's just going to keep crumbling. So you do want to make sure that they're in a nice, safe place so that they don't fall. Now, I've dropped mine, absolutely. I've had mine shipped to me, and you can only imagine what they're doing through the postal office. And I've had maybe one or two from the sets that I have purchased that was just absolutely destroyed. You know, I was sharpening and I was just constantly having to come down. So it's very, for me, it was rare. I've heard others say that they've gotten a set and they were all just broken inside. But again, I haven't experienced that. So you do want to take care of them, and don't drop them. And don't be, if they should fall, or if you should drop them, it's okay. Don't think they're all destroyed. They are encased in wood. So there is that level of protection. I know some people have said that you can put them in the microwave to, you know, heat them up to get the pigment soft again so it'll form. You can't, there is silver, not pure silver, but there is metallic on here. I don't know what that would do. I have never tried it and I don't plan on it. I've heard some people have success. I've heard horror stories. Again, if you should run into that where you do, you know, you have that set where it's just crumbling, you know, call Prismacolor or call the manufacturer of your pencils. And I have yet to run into any groups that would not, you know, support or help with your supplies that you have. But, you know, it can happen. And again, I'm just going to outline around that and then fill this in. You can see I like to, when I do my small circles, I'm coming towards me. And then when I have to do those finer lines, where I'm just literally tracing over the line, I like to do that, you know, kind of away from me. And you just keep going back and forth, and you go back over the edge to blend it out with your previous color. So I don't use, I think I can count on my hand the number of times that I've used a solvent. If I do use, that happens when you have a really sharp point, it's okay. When I do use a solvent, again, I can count on my hand the number of times I have. I like to use something that's called Zest It. I don't like to use Gamsol. It has a beautiful orange scent, and it doesn't have, you know, for me, Gamsol's odorless mineral spirits. The whole term of odorless, and we shouldn't be breathing it. I don't know. That kind of, you know, kind of makes you go, hmm. So to me, that doesn't, and I know you can keep it in a container, keep the lid on. I know I would not put the lid back on every time. I am just not trained for that because I don't use it. So that would have to be, you know, definitely a habit that I would create. And I don't know if I would. You know, I love making the pencils do the work because they will. They do beautiful blends. Absolutely beautiful blends for you. Just got to have that patience. To just let your light pressure and your small little circles, and as you get to the edge, just lighten up that pressure even more, and it just blends right in there. And then small circles. I don't come up as far with my darkest, but I do that harsh line. You know, I get that line in there. And there you go. And we just have one more. I'm actually thinking for my center of doing like a black center, just using a fine liner in there. You know, maybe putting like a shade of the dark or the, I don't know. I think I just want to do squiggles of a black fine liner. I'm not seeing yellow. I'm not even seeing a brown. And the beauty, we can do that. And again, by doing these small circles, we're blending those two colors together to create that peachy pink. Come back in with that medium. And I just love it when the white goes there and we just streak. We keep those streaks in there. There you go. Those are our flowers. You do not need to spray this to protect it. It's fine just how it is. You can, but I've never used any spray. I wouldn't know what to use. I like to keep it. It's, you know, original beauty going on in there. And I do the same thing when it comes to the greens. Now I'm going to keep my white out. I'm going to move my floral color. I'm going to pull my greens in and my black. All right, so these are technically my greens, even though my darkest is blue. Indigo blue is awesome. You could even use it in this as well. But I am going to grab my fine liner real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do just some circles in here. Just like squiggles. That's all they are. They're just squiggles. And some of them, I'll make them closer so that they'll have a different, you know, look to it. So here, I'll make them close here. And then here, we'll bring them out. There we go. I like that. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right, let's do our greens. Now, I'm going to real quick do that section there. You know, again, I'm going to start with my lightest. And then I'm going to do very little blending on this. You want to tap your card off, because if you put your hand this way, you may smear the pigment that you just put down. So this one, we're just going to do this one a little bit different. So again, just, you know, adding some colors there. You know, if anyone's looking at your piece very closely, you should, you know, tap them with it. Nobody needs to, you know, look at everything in a fine detail. And when you have your pencil sharpened, you know, sharp like that, they're gonna snap, and it's okay. There, okay, we got that done. A little bit. All right, so let's do this one here. Same thing. Light pressure, little bigger circles because this is a large area. And I'm just getting that pigment down. And with these leaves, since they're not next to each other, I can do all of these at the same time. It's when the petals or if the leaves are overlapping, that's when I will do them individually, because I don't want to lose the shape of them. When you start adding all of your colors and you're doing them, you know, one at a time, all the light first, all the next lightest, or the next darkest, and so on, you can lose where the lines are, because I'm not using a super dark ink pad. So for the flower, I want that flower to really, really stand out. So I want to be able to know where those lines are so that I can put that darkest dark in there, or even black. Don't be scared of black to get that color down in there. When they're separated like this, then I know I'm okay. I'm not going to have anything that overlaps with that. But keep this with you, because that will be something that we'll blend with. When it comes to leaves, I follow the veins. So for here, yes, I'm going to start from the bottom, but now I am going to circle small circles over this vein, and I'm going to come out on the outer veins as well. And I'm just following the stamp. That's what's great when it comes to a floral stamp. 9 out of 10, you've got your guide of where we're putting our colors. And I'm just going over that vein with small circles. I'm not going over it like I did the dark in the floral petals. And we're going to come away from that center vein just a little bit with this color, just to bring that out so we can see that. Leaves start looking like a hot mess, and it's okay. It'll all come together. Now this one, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go right up that, and then we're going to follow these veins again. Leaves to me are actually just a little bit easier than petals, because it does have that guide. What you're making sure is that you're getting those colors out from each other. You know, making sure that this one here is out a little bit more than what the next color is, so that we have that gradient in a way going on. Now I'm going to come back in with my lightest, and I'm going to go over this whole thing again, just adding a little bit more pressure, really getting these colors to blend just a little bit. And then I'm going to do this all over again. Again, just pulling that out, bringing it up, making sure it's not even, but getting that close to the edge. And you can see how this leaf is now just, it's starting to take shape. Again, using those circles. And now we're going to come in with that indigo. And I'm going to go right to the bottom. And now we're just going to go right into that vein. And we're going to follow it. Okay, and then with the white, not as heavy as what we did with those, I'm just going to lightly come over the edge, over that green, in that up and down stroke motion, and along the side. And it's that back and forth motion, I feel, that just pulls that leaf right out. And if you think that the indigo's a little too dark, you can just swirl right over it with your darker colors to soften it. because we can keep adding, and you'll know when you can't add anymore. And there you go. That's our leaf. So now we're going to do this one. Again, I do like to fill in the bottom. And I don't like to go to the edge, like I said. These are a little bigger circles just to get that leaf starting to form. But you can see I leave the edge of the leaf clear of the darker shades, because I want that white to mix with the lightest green that we have. And I'm just adding a little bit more darker color to the base of this one as we come up. Just to give it that shadow. You can say still circular motions. I do the outlining with the indigo down at the base. And then we're going to go right over those veins. And then we reverse, just to soften that indigo. And I want to mix that into, you know, those greens. Get that going. And this, when I come back, I'm going around the edges. And then I come in with my lightest to really blend in. You can see I'm almost using the same stroke that I do with my white, but I want a good base down for when I come into the white. It's not pure white. It turns into this lighter shade of green, and it's like a highlight that just accents the leaf. Okay. And I'm keeping this in real time. Well, all my tutorials here are in real time. But I'm also keeping this all in here instead of saying, okay, you know, I'll do these off camera, because I do want you to get a feel of how long it could take, or it can take, for a colored pencil, you know, how long it could take. Again, they take longer. They absolutely do. But the results are beautiful. And you can do this. I get lots of, when I used to do, you know, colored pencils on my channel, you know, people would say, okay, I don't think, I don't think I could do that the way that you're doing it. But you can. You just want to make sure, you know, going in circles than going back and forth, because, you know, we want to do this with the colored pencils, because that's what we did. But if you just take those little tiny circles, that will help you. Now I am going to take this blue too and go around that bud as well to give it some shadow, give it some more. Again, just adding in those darker shades. Now I'm going to come in with my lighter one and really go heavy on the edge. And again, I'm doing that same stroke that I do with the white, because I really want that white to pick up that green. And every once in a while, it flicks, and you just get these heavier tones of white that just streak into the leaf. And again, I'm always going back into the previous ones. And I'm seeing some different values here. So let's just smooth those out. Whenever you turn your piece, you'll see it from a different angle, and maybe you'll see, okay, you know, I need to add some more of the darker there. And you can see I'm creating that U like I did in the floral petals around these veins, so that I can get those colors to overlap and get that shape. And remember, your darkest is going to be closest to the veins. And then the indigo, that's where we're going to do some outlining just to break it from the petals. And we'll blend out. And we'll come in with that darker green just to blend out the blue. There's that green I was looking for. And then going over everything. Then coming in a little heavy-handed with our lightest green. And then streaking in our white. And I'm not just staying on the tip, I'm going around the edges as well. And we are at our last leaf. And remember, your image that you choose, we don't have to have that, grandiose image. This is a beautiful size. And funny as it sounds, now I know most of you have heard me say I love real estate for my cards, but when it comes to doing a floral image, I think it's pretty when it's dainty and the color pencil can just shine through that image that you're creating. So, I pick and choose, what's going to work, what I think may work, what may not. Now I'm going to come in. I didn't have to come in with my black, so that's good. But you can. I'm going to blend out that blue just off the corner there. And then up the vein. And again, it's this light green that's just blending them all together when we add that pressure. And then I'm just going to put the white here and a little bit down here because it's going off our page. All right, and there you go. So just around an hour. So this piece took about an hour. Yes, you've been with me that long. All right. So when we come back, I'm going to have you zoomed back out. We're going to put our card together and we're going to add a few little embellishments because we can hide that mark. Absolutely we can. I'll be right back. Okay, and welcome back. I'm going to get this onto my card base and look, it just pops out right there. So I'm going to grab my liquid glue. And you can see I'm going light with it. I don't want the card to get crazy there because remember, liquid glue does have water in it. But I like it because we can have wiggle room to get that centered. Notice how my hands are not going over top of it, but look, I can. There, see? And nothing happened because you can see all that bloom going on there. If I put my finger over this, nothing's coming off. Nothing at all. All right, so we are good. All right, so I think I'm going to add some gray and white pearls. So I think the grays are going to be a little larger. So I'm going to put one right there. Yep. See how that works? And we'll put one there. And I think I'll put one here. I've gotten into like clusters. And I used to do it all the time with my Nouveau drops, where I would just create these sets of 3 clusters. And I think that's where the white pearls are going to come in, but the real small ones. I love these little ones. Oops. Don't want to mix them. Just going to clean up some of the glue from around. There we go. Move that one up there. So when you never know what to do with these real tiny ones, this is it. Okay, I need another picker. I'm going to use my wax pencil. So this is a pencil that's used in the nail industry. It's not as sticky. There we go. All right, let me get these away or else I will wear them. And I do like to have odd numbers of my gems. So 3 sets of 3 is perfect. You could put them in the center of your flowers. And there we go. We have used our colored pencils and created a beautiful card. So I hope you'll try it. I hope you will take your time with it. I'm always here for questions. So remember, leave your questions down below and I will get back to you. But again, just give it a try. You will do fine. Use anything you have in your stash. All right, any image that you want to do. It's the same principle if you want to use a critter. Okay, you know, little tiny cute animal, you can do that as well. Florals are just what I gravitate to when it comes to colored pencils. All right, and again, I will have a download for you of the colors that I used and a close-up of this picture so that you can see the colors, and you'll see the pencil strokes. It's, you know, again, that's the beauty of art. So again, I hope you enjoyed October's project along with all the beautiful tangles. So you guys are doing phenomenal. I am seeing your works, absolutely gorgeous. Keep it going. And then we'll go back to our once a month, you will get a new tangle. So guys, please take care. Continue to stay safe and healthy. And remember what I always say. Always be creative in everything you do every day. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.